Hi everyone, welcome back to Barbie Bakes. Today we're going to be making chicken and dumplings. It's a very cool day out here today and rainy, and hope you guys had a good week. Now I do a very quick chicken and dumplings. I do not boil my chicken for an hour or two and then debone it. I don't go to all that trouble. What I do is, and I know you do that to get your broth, but I buy broth, any kind of chicken broth. You can buy low sodium or whatever. And for today's recipe, I'm using 3 boxes of 32 ounces of chicken broth. Now, I also buy a baked chicken, and I cut the meat off of it instead of boiling it. And I've cubed it up, and I've got my broth boiling, and I'm going to put my chicken in there. And then I'm going to add, later when I put my dumplings in, I'll add a little salt. You don't want to do a lot because some of the chicken broth has sodium. Of course, you can get, like I said, sodium free. And then I'll put pepper in it, a little bit more butter. But we'll be making the homemade dumplings. Now, I do drop dumplings. I do not go to all that trouble of rolling them out and doing all that and cutting them. And so now my broth is boiling. And I've cut my chicken up. I've cubed it up. So I'm going to put the chicken in there. And we'll let that come to a real good boil. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you how to make the dumplings. Now, some people put canned biscuits in there or whatever, but I'd rather make homemade. Okay, what I do is I make my own dumplings, like a homemade dumpling, instead of using a biscuit. And like I said, I do not roll them out. So for this pot with this much broth and all that I have, I'm going to take about 3 cups of self-rising flour. Okay. I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to use shortening. Now, some people don't put shortening in their dumplings, but I do because I want to make it like the taste of a good homemade biscuit. So you use shortening, and I'm going to use about a big tablespoon of the shortening. Now, what you're going to have to do with this shortening, you're going to have to cut it in, okay? So now you can use a fork to cut it in, like that, or you can use a cut-in, which I like them both, so it really doesn't matter. So we're going to cut that shortening in the flour and make sure it's in there real good. And then I'm going to add the milk, and I'm going to stir it up. Now, if you don't get the consistency just right, if it's soupy or too thick, you can always add, if it's too soupy, more flour. And if it's too dry, you add a little bit more liquid. Okay. So now I'm going to continue, finish it up with a fork. Okay. I think that's cut in pretty good. Now I've poured out a cup of milk. Now we might need a little bit more, or might not need this much, but I got it ready. So now then we're going to mix this up. So see, it's still kind of dry, so I'm going to add some more milk. You know, I'm kind of lazy when it comes to my chicken and dumplings. Like I said, I used to boil the chicken, and I used to debone it and then take the broth. But then you got to let it cool before you debone it. Well, one day I thought, well, why am I going to all that trouble? I'll buy a baked chicken, take the chicken off of it, cube it up, get my broth, buy the broth. Of course, make my own dumplings. Like I said, I've used canned biscuits, but they're a little gooey, and I don't think they're quite as good as homemade. Okay, so now so far we have used that whole cup of milk. Now you want to make sure you have no dry dough in here. And I think I'm going to need a little bit more milk, because I just need a little bit more. I'll tell you, got to have a little bit of muscles to do this. It'd be kind of hard the more flour you use. This is going to make a lot of dumplings, but my kids in the family love the dumplings. That's why I always make my own. And like I said, you can make your dumplings, you can roll them out, and you can cut them, but I just soon have drop. Well, the chicken is boiling. You want it at a really good rolling boil like that with the chicken in there. Just drop a few dumplings in at a time. Give it a little time to cook. And so once I get my dumplings in there, I'll add a little pepper also. And I'll put a little butter in it to make it a little bit more flavorful, even though the chicken broth is always good for that. Okay, you see what I did? Now see, this is just like if you wanted to make homemade biscuits now. All you have to do is flour your hand a little bit and roll them up, or you could put these out and cut the biscuits. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, we'll take about this much, just drop it in there. Whew. Be careful, don't burn yourself. And I'll put quite a few in there. Let them start cooking. Like I said, I can make this usually within about 45 minutes versus an hour or two with cooking your chicken and everything. And as busy as people are these days, the quicker you can make something, make it homemade and taste good, I figure the better. Okay, let those cook a little. Got plenty of room to drop some more. Okay, get all these made up. Then once it's done, the kids always say, Mom, put plenty of dumplings in there. We love the dumplings. So they will fight over the dumplings more than they fight over the chicken that's in there. You have to make sure your dumplings get done, but it doesn't take too much with the broth boiling that fast and hard. Okay, I've got a few cooking now, so I'm just going to let them get done a little bit. And in the meantime, I'm going to put just a little bit of sea salt. I don't measure a lot of things, but I'm just going to pour out just a little bit of sea salt. Put that in there. And then I'm going to put some black pepper. And then when you plate it and make your bowl, you can always add salt and pepper to your own taste. Okay, so you see how those have kind of like gotten bigger, because that's the self-rising flour that's making it do that. And so we're going to add some more now. You know, you can make this for a family of 4, 5, 6, 8. Or, the way I do it, you can make chicken and dumplings for 2. You know, you'd use 1 thing of broth and a little bit of chicken and the small amount of flour. We've got a lot more dumplings here, but this is a big pot. You know, I don't know if I mentioned it to you before, but, you know, with the virus, I kind of did a stay at home the middle of March, and my oldest daughter did the grocery shopping for my husband and I. And I didn't venture out probably till the end of June. I thought, I've got to get out, but I wear my mask and I social distance. And, but not being able to take a vacation this year and do things with the family and grandkids, I thought, well, you know, winter's coming. In the summer, I can sit out in the yard and garden, and kids can come over and distant and have a little cookout. But I thought, sitting in the house all winter, I have to find something to do. That I'm not good at crafts. I'm not good at making stuff. So I thought, well, I'm not an expert cook either, but I'm going to try it out. So, you know, if you go to YouTube and watch my videos, you can subscribe to it and like it. And I'm going to try to have a video about once a week. We'll see how it goes. And, you know, if there's something that you would like for me to make, and if I can make it, I'll sure try. Okay, we're going to let that cook a little bit more. Now I'm going to add some butter.
Maggie?
These dumplings are almost done. I'm going to let them cook a little bit more before I add more. And probably will add a little bit more pepper here in a minute. I added some butter to it just to make it a little bit more flavorful. Now usually when I don't know what a lot of people eat with their chicken and dumplings, but when I make a pot of chicken and dumplings, that's all my family wants. It's like a big pot of chicken and dumplings. I know you could have other things with it, like sometimes I've made corn on the cob or, things like that. But when it's a cool, rainy day and a lazy day, like it is for me today, this is all they're getting. Hi, Casper. I guess you want something to eat. Well, you can't have dumplings. I'm sorry. I already gave you some of the chicken when I cut it up. But no dumplings. Sorry, kiddo. Now, what you want to do is ever so often scrape the bottom of that to make sure that your chicken or nothing like that's sticking. Okay, now I'm going to add just a little bit more pepper. I'm going to let that cook a few more minutes, and then we'll dip some up. You can pretty well tell by looking at your dumplings if they're done. If they're nice and fluffy and staying together. The dumplings have probably been cooking now for about 10 or 15 minutes. And you can see how they're done now. Good and done. And you can see some of the chicken in there. And like I said, you can put as much chicken as you want. And as many dumplings as you want. Depending on how many you're cooking for. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. And I'm going to dip us up some. Okay, that's my doggie. She heard me. I made a noise here in the kitchen and she barks at every little noise. There's my chicken and dumplings. Here's the chicken and dumplings. I'm ready to eat it. It's going to be for dinner. So make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. And this is Barbie with Barbie Bakes. See you next time. Bye-bye.